Okay, so AI tools generated 15 million tracks last year, and only 0.3% got more than 1,000 streams. And this is why and what you need to do about it. In case you don't know, I Feel Void. I produce Dark Trap. I mix for artists, and yeah, I'm a producer, engineer, songwriter, rapper, whatever. Anyways, I think the debate these days has changed. It's not even really about if AI music has soul. At this point, we know it doesn't, and that's been settled for a while. I think the real question right now is going to be like, what separates producers who thrive in 2026 from those who get replaced by $20 a month software? And I have three things that you need to know to lock in, so I'm going to get into it. So let's start with what I call the soul gap and what soul actually means, right? I'm not talking about something mystical or subjective or even spiritual. I'm defining soul as the non-reproducible personal experience that gets translated into sound decisions. So AI tools like Suno and Udeo, they scrape data sets often stolen from real producers. And there's no pain and no struggle. There's no 3 a.m. breakthrough like we all have had before. Now, let me give you guys a crazy example I found lately. In late 2025, an AI artist named Solomon Ray topped Christian charts, and the fans actually pushed back. I even have a quote here. It says, "The lyrics are beautiful, but it feels wrong coming from a thing without a soul," which is pretty crazy, actually. I wouldn't expect that kind of pushback for an AI artist, honestly. Not these days. I feel like people, really just don't care. But yeah, in response to the backlash, Spotify decided to pull the track, and I guess the deception failed because the audience can sense intention, even if they can't articulate why. And I also want to contrast this a little bit with what some of the top producers that I respect are saying about soul. I'm going to start with Rubin, who spent 40 years producing everyone from Johnny Cash to Kanye West. And his philosophy is that creativity isn't really a skill, it's a way of being open, aware, and aligned with the world. He likes to describe the creative process in 4 phases, being seed, experimentation, crafting, and completion. And each phase requires human presence to catch ideas, sort the good from the bad, and make micro decisions that AI will never be able to grasp. When he worked on Adele's 21, she even said that he taught her quality control by creating a calm space where she could connect deeply with her music. That connection that she's speaking about is the soul that AI databases will never be able to contain. Next, I want to go on to Mike Dean. So Mike Dean, if you guys aren't familiar, he produced for Travis Scott, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Beyonce, etc., etc., etc. And his missing philosophy is quite simple. It's all about the kick, the snare, and the vocals, and everything else is just extra bullshit, which is a pretty straightforward philosophy. Mike Dean doesn't use templates. He likes to start fresh every session because, in his words, you don't want to reinvent the song. And as a producer, he understands that. He likes to play a lot of guitar and synths live with Kanye and Travis. And those performances inform his studio decisions. And that feedback loop between live energy and production choices is also another thing that AI can't really experience. The next artist I want to talk about is Kanye. When Kanye got stuck on his lyrics for Power, he decided to go around the room and ask everyone around him what power meant to him. The song then started to become a group effort. The popular hook, "No one man should have all that power," actually came from collective human experience. And another cool thing about Ye is his creative process pulls from his childhood memories. Akira, the anime film that his mom took him to see, inspired his entire Yuzi aesthetic. Bible verses inform design decisions for him, and auto shows with his dad also shaped his product vision. Now, we all know AI doesn't have a mom, it doesn't have a childhood, it definitely can't remember its childhood. So my point here is it can't draw from lived experience because it hasn't really lived. And this is where your advantage comes in as a producer, because every decision you make, your sample selection, velocity curves, reverb decay, they all come from accumulated experience, right? An AI will never be able to replicate a 808 pattern from your Heartbreak Summer, distortion that you built after studying your favorite artist, or timing variations that match your human emotions that you felt. And also, I've done tests feeding my old beats into AI remixers, and on the first listen I was like, yeah, that's cool, but after a while it starts to sound boring. There's not really a narrative development. It kind of mimics my patterns, but misses my intent. And a lot of my mix decisions, honest to God, don't come through. So I think soul isn't really magic. I think it's just accumulated taste and executing micro decisions that AI databases will really not be able to contain. And so next I want to talk about the market right now. AI music is flooding streaming platforms. I believe the number is like 15 million tracks in 2025. But luckily we do have Bandcamp coming in and banning all AI generated content in January. So here's what's happening. I'm going to call this bottom tier AI territory. So likely AI is going to replace things like background music for streamers, royalty-free stock tracks, and also just like be random playlist filler that nobody remembers, like lo-fi hip-hop beats or whatever. You're going to want to start coming in on the premium tier. This is where humans are going to be important, and this is where humans are going to continue to be valued in this music industry. So that would be like custom work for serious artists, charging $500 to a couple $1,000s, making signature sounds that can't just be prompted into existence, and then also looking at production as a part of your brand and not being just the vendor. I also want to talk about the AI democratization lie. That's the best I'm gonna get it. So yeah, anyone can really generate music now, but like the tools don't really create taste. An 18-year-old with Suno could make some forgettable loops that everybody else is using the same prompts. So what you're really going to need here is sound design that stands out. Make sure you're working on custom presets and unique processing chains. Another thing you'll need is genre knowledge that AI doesn't really have. So references to subculture and, different nuances in your production. And then the third thing is you're going to need relationship building skills, because artists pay for producers who understand their vision. And I just want to put in another case study here. I'm going to call this the authenticity premium. An artist by the name of Louis Tomlinson stated that AI has a limited shelf life and it's fine for casual listening, but it lacks the personality to stick. And the way I hear that is disposable content gets disposable prices and memorable work commands premiums. Out here in Maryland, where I'm based, local artists will still pay a pretty good premium for custom work because they want intention and not algorithms. I'm going to call this the action plan, because you guys know me. I always want you guys to take action. So here are my 3 moves to stay irreplaceable, right? Okay, so first one is to develop signature processing. AI can replicate drum kits, but it can't really replicate your approach to distortion staging, reverb placement, how you handle mid-range conflicts or anything like that. A lot of your mix decisions, AI is still not that good at handling, to be honest. And I just wanted to give a few examples from artists that I really like. First one being Flume. He's a Australian producer who likes to record long jams on modular synths, and then he slices them up and resamples them with heavy processing. He, bounces audio, adds effects, and then chops, creating textures that AI can't generate because it doesn't understand the why behind his filter choices. One of my favorite things about him is like signature metallic snares. So what it actually is layered percussive elements with OTT compression and then specific EQ curves that, we don't really know. So not presets, not samples, it's his approach. The next producer I want to talk about is Grimes. Grimes actually is quoted saying that sound design is her favorite part of the recording process. And she builds custom sample packs by walking around her house with a nice microphone, banging things together and creating unique textures. Another thing is she likes to use Ableton Live too, and she calls it her god because it's her DIY ethos that creates her signature sound. But another cool thing is that she refuses to use the same programs for too long because she hates getting muscle memory and she likes to intentionally disrupt her own patterns. So if you guys feel like taking action on this, maybe document some of your sound principles and the why behind your decision, and build templates that codify your approach and not just presets. All right, second thing, you guys need to focus on building a producer brand and not just a catalog. When artists are searching for dark trap beats on YouTube and stuff like that, they're really just looking for producers whose aesthetic matches their vision, right? And what that kind of looks like is, having a consistent visual identity. I'm going to use myself as an example. I use a lot of purple, a lot of glitch effects and cyberpunk type themes. It also helps having a lot of educational content showing your process and not just your results. Another thing that helps a lot is client testimonials that emphasize your understanding and not just your output. I'm going to go back to Rick Rubin on this one. Rick Rubin, he built a reputation as somebody who creates environments where artists discover their best work. He's not really known for technical wizardry. He's known for understanding what artists need in that moment. His Shangri-La studios are designed for comfort. He doesn't flex a lot of gear. He allows artists months to experiment without pressure, and that approach became his brand, and that's why artists like to work with them. And my approach, every YouTube video, X post, Substack, just builds on my brand. I feel void with my dark atmospheric production and professional precision, and I don't think AI is going to be able to build brand equity because it doesn't have a story, journey, or philosophy. My third thing is leveraging AI as a assistant and not a replacement. Here's the paradox, right? The best producers in 2026 probably will be using AI tools, but they're going to be using it strategically, They might use AI for a chord progression idea that they then go in and humanize. They might reference a generation for an idea and then make it their own. And they might also just use it to accelerate their workflow, which I find myself doing a lot. AI is really good at organizing stems, naming audio files en masse, writing scripts. I used AI to help me write the script for the video, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, there's just a few ideas right there. And then I want to go back to Grimes for a second because her AI strategy is pretty unique. She created Elf Tech, which is an AI voice tool that she controls. And basically she lets anybody use her AI voice, but she gets to keep 50% of the royalties and credit. I like how she's not resistant to AI and she's trying to position herself as an authority on how her voice gets used. I think that's strategic, and I think it's smart that she built a system around her terms. Couple things you shouldn't do: don't publish AI output directly. Don't let AI make creative decisions. It's not that good at it. And also don't use it as a crutch for developing your ear. But yeah, if you don't know if you're over relying or under relying, here's a test. If you can't explain why you made a creative choice beyond AI suggested it, you're probably losing your edge, obviously. Just want to throw Flume back in here again because, you know, he downloads thousands and thousands of samples to find unique sounds, and he's super picky. And that curation is something AI also can't do. You know, it can generate infinite sounds, but it can't know which one matches your vision. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you why this matters beyond just like making money. Music production in 2026 isn't really going to be about fighting AI. It's going to be about remembering why humans make music in the first place. And we don't make music to fill Spotify algorithms. We make music to process emotion, tell stories that machines will never understand, and connect with humans through shared experience. Every beat you make with an intention is a statement, and that statement says that this matters because I decided it matters. And AI is not going to be able to do that. It doesn't have stakes. It has no reason to care if your 808 hits. And also, like, it has no investment in whether your artistic vision even comes to life. Like, your competitive advantage isn't talent alone, it's the fact that you care. Anyways, if you're serious about staying ahead, drop me a comment. Let me know what one technique you think AI can't replace in your workflow. Subscribe for weekly producer intelligence, where I break down my thoughts on what's going on in the music industry. And also follow me on Twitter /X for real-time industry talk. Stay sharp and stay blessed.